Sarah Mitchell stood at the iron gates of the Whitmore estate, her hands trembling despite the summer heat. The mansion loomed before her like something from another century, completely out of place in rural Virginia. Behind her, 3 other women waited in silence, their eyes fixed on the ground. "Remember the rules," whispered Maria, the oldest among them. "When the door opens, you kneel. You don't speak unless spoken to. You don't look him in the eye. And whatever you do, don't refuse the ritual." Sarah wanted to ask what ritual, but the words died in her throat. She needed this job. Her daughter Emma was sick, the medical bills were piling up, and her veteran's disability check barely covered rent. When the ad appeared for live-in housekeeping at the Whitmore estate, offering 3 times the normal wage, she'd applied immediately. The door swung open. A tall man in an expensive suit stood in the doorway. Richard Whitmore. Everyone in Jefferson County knew the Whitmore name. Old money. Powerful connections. The kind of family that got what they wanted, always. "Good," Whitmore said, looking down at them. "You're on time." Maria dropped to her knees immediately. The other 2 women followed. Sarah hesitated for just a moment before doing the same, her military training screaming at her that this was wrong, that no employer should demand this. Whitmore walked slowly in front of them, his expensive shoes clicking on the stone pathway. He stopped in front of Sarah. "You're new," he said. "Maria, did you explain the ritual?" "Yes, sir," Maria said quietly. "I was about to, sir." "Then explain it now. I want to hear if you remember correctly." Maria's voice shook slightly. "Every morning at 6, we gather at the door. We kneel until you acknowledge us. We recite our gratitude for the opportunity to serve. We accept our daily assignments. And we perform the oath of servitude before we enter." Sarah's stomach turned. Oath of servitude? What kind of household was this? And what happens if someone refuses? Whitmore asked, still looking at Sarah. "They're dismissed immediately, sir. Without pay. And you make sure they never work in Jefferson County again." Whitmore smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "That's right. You see, Miss Mitchell," Sarah said, keeping her voice steady. "Sarah Mitchell. Miss Mitchell. You see, I believe in order. Structure. Some people call me old-fashioned, but I prefer to think of myself as traditional. The people who work in my house understand their place. They respect the hierarchy. And in return, I pay them very, very well." He paused. "Your daughter is sick, I understand." Sarah's blood ran cold. How did he know about Emma? "Leukemia, isn't it?" Whitmore continued. "Terrible disease. Expensive to treat. I imagine you do just about anything to afford the best care for her." Sarah lifted her eyes to meet his. She saw the calculation there, the power play. He'd researched her. He knew exactly how desperate she was. "Yes, sir," she said through gritted teeth. "I would." "Good. Then you'll have no problem with our little tradition. Maria, proceed." Maria began to recite words that made Sarah's skin crawl. Words about being grateful for employment, about serving faithfully, about accepting Mr. Whitmore's authority without question. The other women joined in, their voices flat and rehearsed. Sarah remained silent. Whitmore's eyes narrowed. "Is there a problem, Miss Mitchell?" Every instinct Sarah had developed during her 6 years in the army told her to stand up, to walk away, to tell this man exactly where he could shove his ritual. But then she thought of Emma in that hospital bed, her small body fighting a battle it shouldn't have to fight. She thought of the experimental treatment the doctors had mentioned, the one that insurance wouldn't cover, the one that cost more money than Sarah could imagine. She thought of her daughter's smile. And she began to recite the words. When it was over, Whitmore stepped aside. "Welcome to the Whitmore estate. Maria will show you to your quarters and explain your duties. Remember, ladies, discretion is essential. What happens in this house stays in this house. The women rose and filed past him into the mansion. Sarah was last. As she crossed the threshold, Whitmore leaned close enough that only she could hear. "You have fire in you, Miss Mitchell. I saw it in your eyes. But fire can be extinguished." He smiled that cold smile again. "Or it can be useful. We'll see which one you are." The mansion was enormous inside. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, paintings that probably cost more than Sarah's childhood home. Maria led them through a maze of hallways to the servants' quarters in the east wing. "You'll share a room with Grace," Maria said, gesturing to one of the other women. "Wake up is 5:30. The ritual is at 6. Breakfast preparation starts at 6:30. Mr. Whitmore takes his breakfast at exactly 7:30. What exactly are our duties?" Sarah asked. Maria glanced nervously down the hallway before answering. "Cleaning, cooking, laundry. But that's not all." She lowered her voice. "Mr. Whitmore has guests. Important people. Politicians, judges, businessmen. When they visit, we serve them. And we don't ask questions about what we see or hear." "What do you mean, what we see?" "I mean exactly what I said. You clean the rooms, you serve the food, you keep your mouth shut. Some of the guests, they like their privacy. Some of them have particular tastes." Sarah felt ice forming in her chest. "Maria, what kind of place is this?" "It's the kind of place where you make enough money to save your daughter's life," Maria said sharply. "And the kind of place where you disappear if you cause trouble. I've been here 4 years, Sarah. I've seen women come and go. The ones who follow the rules, who do their jobs, who keep quiet, they leave with enough money to start over. The ones who ask too many questions." She trailed off. "They just leave. Where do they go?" "I don't know. And I don't ask." Grace, a young woman who couldn't have been more than 22, spoke up for the first time. "Listen to Maria. She's trying to help you. This job isn't what you think it is, but it pays. God knows it pays. Just keep your head down, do what you're told, and think about your daughter." Sarah wanted to argue, but she was tired. The weight of everything, Emma's illness, the medical bills, the desperation that had brought her here, pressed down on her shoulders like a physical thing. "All right," she said quietly. "I'll follow the rules." Maria's expression softened slightly. "Good. Get some rest. Tomorrow starts early." That night, Sarah lay in the narrow bed in her shared room, staring at the ceiling. Grace was already asleep, her breathing soft and regular. Through the wall, Sarah could hear voices. Men's voices, laughing and talking. And underneath that, something else. A sound that might have been crying. She pulled out her phone, looking at the photo of Emma she kept as her wallpaper. Her daughter's bright smile, taken before the diagnosis, before everything changed. Emma was only 8 years old. She deserved a chance to grow up, to have a life. Sarah had served 2 tours in Iraq. She'd seen things that still woke her up at night. She'd learned to survive in impossible situations, to assess threats, to trust her instincts. And every instinct she had was screaming that something was very, very wrong in this house. But what choice did she have? She closed her eyes and tried to sleep, but the sound of crying continued through the wall. Soft, muffled, hopeless. The sound of someone who had given up on rescue. Sarah Mitchell had never been good at ignoring cries for help. This was going to be a problem. The first week passed in a blur of degrading rituals and backbreaking work. Every morning, Sarah knelt at that door. Every morning, she recited words that made her feel smaller, less human. And every morning, Richard Whitmore watched with those calculating eyes, waiting for her to break. She didn't break. During the day, she cleaned rooms that were already spotless, polished silver that already gleamed, and served meals to men who looked through her like she was furniture. She learned the layout of the mansion, the routines, the patterns. Old habits from her military days, always observing, always planning. At night, she heard things that made her blood boil. On the 8th day, she was assigned to clean the third-floor guest rooms. Maria had been specific about the instructions. Mr. Whitmore has important guests this weekend. You clean the rooms before they arrive and after they leave. You do not, under any circumstances, go up there while the guests are present. Understood? Understood, Sarah had replied. But understanding and agreeing were two different things. She was carrying fresh linens up the main staircase when she heard the scream. It was brief, quickly muffled, but unmistakable. It came from the third floor. Sarah froze. Every fiber of her being wanted to run toward that sound, but Maria's warning echoed in her mind. She thought of Emma, of the treatment money, of the promise she'd made to herself to keep her head down. The scream came again. Sarah dropped the linens and ran. The third-floor hallway was different from the rest of the house. Darker. The doors were heavier, made of solid oak with modern locks that seemed out of place in the antique mansion. She followed the sound to the last door on the left. She pressed her ear against it. Inside, she could hear a man's voice, low and threatening. And a girl's voice, pleading. Please, I want to go home. You said I could go home after. Shut up, the man's voice cut her off. You'll go home when I say you can go home. When Mr. Whitmore says you can go home. Now stop crying and do what you're told. Sarah's hand went to the doorknob. Locked. Of course it was locked. Everything all right, Sarah? She spun around. Richard Whitmore stood at the top of the stairs, his expression unreadable. I heard. I thought someone needed help, Sarah said carefully. Did you? It wasn't a question. Whitmore walked toward her slowly. And what exactly did you hear? A scream. Probably the television. Judge Morrison likes his crime shows loud. Whitmore stopped in front of the door, blocking it with his body. You were told not to come up here during guest hours. I was bringing linens. The linens can wait. Go back downstairs, Miss Mitchell. Sarah didn't move. Behind that door, she could hear muffled sobbing. Whitmore heard it too. His jaw tightened slightly. That's an order, he said, his voice dropping to a dangerous quiet. Unless you'd like to forfeit your employment. And the $50,000 bonus you were promised at the end of your first month. $50,000. More than enough for Emma's treatment. Sarah looked at the door, then at Whitmore. She thought about her daughter, about the oath she'd taken when she joined the army, to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. She thought about the woman she used to be, before desperation had brought her to her knees. I'll go, she said finally. But I want to know what's happening up here. Whitmore's eyes flashed with something, anger, or maybe amusement. What's happening up here is none of your concern. My guests value their privacy. They pay very well for that privacy. And everyone in this house benefits from their generosity. Even the girl crying in that room. Especially her. That girl came from nothing. No family, no prospects, no future. I'm giving her opportunities she'd never have otherwise. A place to stay, food, money. More than she deserves, frankly. She's a prisoner, Sarah said flatly. She's an employee. Just like you. She can leave whenever she wants. Whitmore smiled. Of course, if she leaves, she forfeits her pay. And I make sure everyone knows she's not to be trusted. Hard to find work after that. Hard to survive. He leaned closer. You understand survival, don't you, Miss Mitchell? You understand doing what needs to be done. Sarah understood perfectly. Whitmore wasn't just running a household. He was running a trap. Find desperate people, offer them money they can't refuse, and then use that desperation to control them. To make them complicit in whatever darkness he was hiding behind these locked doors. "I understand," she said. "Good. Then we won't have this problem again." Whitmore gestured toward the stairs. "Go. Now." Sarah went. But as she descended the stairs, her mind was racing. She needed proof. Evidence of what was happening here. Something concrete she could take to the police. The problem was, Richard Whitmore owned half the police force in Jefferson County. She'd learned that her first day, listening to the other women talk. The sheriff played golf with Whitmore every Sunday. The district attorney attended Whitmore's charity galas. Even the mayor owed his election to Whitmore's campaign contributions. Who could she trust? That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, listening to Grace's steady breathing, and made a decision. She was going to find out what was happening on the third floor. And if it was what she suspected, she was going to stop it. Money or no money. She waited until she heard the mansion settle into silence, until she was sure Grace was deeply asleep. Then she slipped out of bed, pulled on dark clothes, and crept into the hallway. The mansion was different at night. Shadows seemed deeper, sound seemed louder. Sarah moved like she'd been trained to move, silent and careful, keeping to the edges of the hallways where the floorboards were less likely to creak. She made it to the third floor without incident. The hallway was empty. Most of the doors were closed, but light seeped out from under two of them. Sarah approached the first one, the same door from earlier, and pressed her ear against it. Silence. Maybe the guest had left. Maybe the girl was asleep. Or maybe she was too afraid to make any sound. Sarah tried the next door. This one wasn't locked. She eased it open just enough to peek inside. The room was empty, but it wasn't a guest room. It was an office. Bookshelves lined the walls, filled with leather-bound volumes. A massive desk dominated the center, covered in papers and folders. And on the wall behind the desk, a bank of security monitors showed different views of the mansion. Sarah's pulse quickened. She slipped inside and closed the door behind her. The monitors showed everything. The front gates, the driveway, the main hallways, the servants' quarters. Even some of the guest rooms. Sarah felt sick. How many people had Whitmore recorded without their knowledge? She moved to the desk, careful not to disturb anything. The papers were mostly financial records, donation receipts, business correspondence. Nothing incriminating. But the folders were different. She opened the first one. Inside were photographs. Young women, dozens of them, each with a name and date written on the back. Sarah recognized some of them from the servants' quarters. But many were unfamiliar. And the dates went back years. She opened another folder. This one contained contracts. Employment agreements that looked official on the surface, but the fine print made Sarah's blood run cold. Clauses about confidentiality, about forfeiting pay for breach of contract, about legal liability for false accusations. It was a perfect system of control, legally binding these women to silence. The third folder was full of names. Powerful names. Senators, judges, CEOs. Next to each name was a list of dates and dollar amounts. Donations, probably. Or payments for something else. Sarah pulled out her phone and started taking pictures. She worked quickly, methodically, documenting everything. This was evidence. Real evidence. Maybe enough to. The light clicked on. Well, Richard Whitmore said from the doorway. I had a feeling about you, Miss Mitchell. I knew you'd be trouble. Sarah straightened, her phone still in her hand. It's over, Whitmore. I have evidence. I'm going to the police. Whitmore laughed. It was a genuine laugh, full of real amusement. The police? Oh, Sarah. Sweet, naive Sarah. He pulled out his own phone and tapped the screen. Sheriff Davis, I have an intruder at my residence. Yes, she's armed. Very dangerous. Please send units immediately. I'm not armed, Sarah said. Aren't you? Whitmore reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a gun. He placed it carefully on the desk between them. In about 5 minutes, the sheriff will arrive. He'll find you here, in my private office, with my gun. And I'll tell him you threatened me, tried to rob me. He'll arrest you. And then I'll make sure the charges stick. You can't. I can do whatever I want, Whitmore said coldly. You think you're the first person to try to expose me? I've been doing this for 15 years, Sarah. 15 years, and no one has ever touched me. Because I'm careful. I'm connected. And I'm very, very good at making problems disappear. Sarah heard sirens in the distance. Getting closer. She looked at the gun on the desk, then at Whitmore. She could grab it, maybe. But then what? Threaten him? Shoot him? That would only prove his story right. She needed to think. To plan. To. On your knees, Whitmore said. Just like at the door. Show the sheriff how compliant you are. Maybe he'll go easy on you. The sirens were louder now. Sarah had maybe a minute before they arrived. She made her choice. She grabbed the gun. Sarah didn't point the gun at Whitmore. Instead, she ejected the magazine, cleared the chamber, and placed both the weapon and ammunition on opposite sides of the desk. What are you doing? Whitmore demanded. Making sure the evidence matches my story, not yours, Sarah said calmly. When the sheriff gets here, he's going to find an unloaded weapon, and he's going to have questions about why you told him I was armed and dangerous. Whitmore's confident smile faltered for just a moment. You think you're clever. But it doesn't matter. You're still trespassing in my private office. I'm an employee doing her job. These are the guest rooms I was assigned to clean, remember? This door was unlocked. I came in to check if it needed service. Sarah gestured to the security monitors. Those cameras will show I didn't break in. The sirens stopped outside. Car doors slammed. Footsteps pounded up the stairs. You won't get away with this, Whitmore hissed. Even if they don't arrest you tonight, you're finished. No bonus. No job. And I'll make sure every hospital in Virginia knows that Sarah Mitchell is a thief and a liar. Good luck getting treatment for your daughter then. Sarah felt the words like a physical blow, but she kept her face neutral. You'd punish a sick child to get back at me? I'd do whatever it takes to protect what's mine. Sheriff Davis burst through the door, his weapon drawn, 2 deputies behind him. He was a large man with a red face and hard eyes. Mr. Whitmore, are you all right? I'm fine, Sheriff. False alarm, it seems. Whitmore had smoothly transitioned back to his public persona, all charm and concern. I thought I heard an intruder, but it's just one of my housekeepers. She got lost looking for the cleaning supplies. Davis lowered his weapon but didn't holster it. His eyes moved from Whitmore to Sarah to the gun on the desk. That so? Yes, Sarah said steadily. I apologize for the confusion, Sheriff. I'm new here, still learning the layout. Davis studied her for a long moment. Sarah could see him trying to decide if he believed the story or if he was just willing to accept it because Whitmore wanted him to. Mr. Whitmore, you want to press charges for trespassing? Davis asked. No. Just a misunderstanding. Whitmore smiled that cold smile. Though I think Miss Mitchell might be more comfortable in different accommodations. This job doesn't seem to suit her. I'm fine, Sheriff, Sarah said before Davis could respond. Mr. Whitmore is right that I'm still adjusting. But I learn fast. She was playing a dangerous game now, and she knew it. If she left the estate, she lost access to the evidence. But if she stayed, Whitmore would be watching her every move. Davis holstered his weapon. Well, if everyone's happy, I've got better things to do than referee employer-employee disputes. He looked at Sarah. Try not to get lost again, ma'am. I won't, Sheriff. After the police left, Whitmore closed the office door. The friendly mask dropped immediately. You're smart, he said. Smarter than most. But you made a critical mistake tonight. What's that? You showed me you're not controllable. The money doesn't own you. The fear doesn't control you. Which means you're useless to me. He moved to his desk, pressing something underneath it. I'm going to give you a choice. You can leave right now, tonight, with nothing. Or you can stay until morning, collect what's owed to you for the week you've worked, and then leave. Either way, you're done here. A door in the bookshelf swung open. Sarah hadn't even noticed it was there. A hidden passage. What I want, Sarah said carefully, is to finish my contract. 1 month. $50,000. That's what we agreed to. That agreement is void. Not according to the contract I signed. Unless you want me to take that to a lawyer. Sarah was bluffing now, hoping the contract she'd signed had some actual legal weight. I imagine a labor dispute would attract attention. Questions about your employment practices. Maybe someone would want to inspect the premises. Whitmore's jaw clenched. You wouldn't. I'm a veteran, Mr. Whitmore. I don't threaten. I make promises. And I promise you, if you try to force me out without paying what you owe, I'll make enough noise that your powerful friends will start to get nervous. They'll want distance from you. And men like you, you're only powerful as long as people think you are. It was a desperate gamble, but Sarah saw something flicker in Whitmore's eyes. Calculation. He was weighing the risk. 1 week, he said finally. You have 1 week to prove you can follow the rules. If you step out of line even once, you're out. No pay. No reference. No mercy. Understood? Understood. Good. Now get out of my sight. Sarah left the office, her heart pounding. She'd bought herself time, but she'd also painted a target on her back. Whitmore would be watching her constantly now, waiting for her to make a mistake. She had 7 days to find a way to expose him. 7 days to save whatever was happening behind those locked doors. 7 days to do it without getting herself killed. The next morning's ritual was torture. Sarah knelt at the door with the others, reciting the words she'd memorized, while Whitmore stood over them with barely concealed hatred in his eyes. When it was done, he assigned her the worst jobs. Scrubbing toilets, hauling trash, cleaning the basement storage rooms that reeked of mold and decay. Maria pulled her aside during lunch. What did you do? What do you mean? Don't play dumb. Whitmore never assigns someone to basement duty unless he's punishing them. What happened? Sarah considered how much to tell her. Maria had been here for 4 years. She knew things. But could she be trusted? I got lost last night, Sarah said carefully. Ended up somewhere I shouldn't have been. Maria's eyes widened. The 3rd floor. Yes. Jesus, Sarah. Do you have any idea how dangerous that was? Maria looked around to make sure no one was listening. Those rooms, the locked ones, they're not just for guests. Whitmore runs something up there. I don't know exactly what, but I know enough to stay far away from it. What do you know? Maria shook her head. I can't. If he found out I was talking about it. Maria, please. There was a girl up there. I heard her crying. There are always girls up there, Maria whispered. They come and go. Young ones, desperate ones. Whitmore finds them, promises them money, and then. She trailed off. Look, I've kept my head down for 4 years because I have 2 kids to feed. Their father is in prison. I have no one. This job, awful as it is, keeps a roof over their heads. I can't risk that. I understand. But those girls, they have no one either. And whatever Whitmore is doing to them is not our problem, Maria said firmly. I know that sounds cold. I know it sounds cowardly. But this is the world we live in. Men like Whitmore, they don't go down. They just find new victims. Sarah looked at this woman who'd been broken down, year by year, ritual by ritual, until she'd convinced herself that survival meant complicity. I was like you once, Maria said quietly. I thought I could change things. Thought I could help. But all I did was make things worse. For myself and for the people I tried to save. She touched Sarah's arm. Please. Just do your time and get out. Save your daughter. Don't try to save everyone else. I'll think about it, Sarah lied. She spent the afternoon in the basement, moving boxes and cleaning corners that hadn't been touched in years. It was mindless work, which gave her time to think. She needed allies. Real ones. People who couldn't be bought or intimidated by Whitmore. But who? The police were compromised. The local government was in his pocket. The media probably wouldn't touch a story about a powerful donor without ironclad evidence. Then she remembered something. A name she'd seen in Whitmore's files. A senator who'd stopped taking his money 2 years ago. Who'd actually introduced legislation against human trafficking. Senator Patricia Morrison. Sarah pulled out her phone, careful to angle it away from the basement's security camera. She found Morrison's office number and sent a carefully worded email to the general contact address. I have information about Richard Whitmore's activities that Senator Morrison would want to see. Regarding her anti-trafficking legislation. Please contact me urgently. She left her number and hit send before she could second-guess herself. Then she got back to work, waiting. The call came 3 hours later. This is Sarah Mitchell. Ms. Mitchell, this is David Chen, senior aide to Senator Morrison. Your email was forwarded to me. What information do you have? Sarah's heart raced. I'm currently employed at Richard Whitmore's estate. I've observed activities that I believe constitute human trafficking and possibly other crimes. I have some photographic evidence, but I need help getting more. There was a long pause. Ms. Mitchell, are you aware that Mr. Whitmore is a significant political donor in Virginia? I'm aware. I'm also aware that Senator Morrison stopped accepting his donations. I'm hoping that means she can't be bought. Another pause. Where are you calling from? The basement of Whitmore's mansion. Jesus. Okay, listen carefully. Don't send me anything electronic. Don't email, don't text. If you can get physical evidence out of that house, bring it to this address. He rattled off a location in Richmond, about 2 hours away. It's a federal building. Ask for me at the desk. I'll make sure you get to the right people. I only have 7 days, Sarah said. After that, I'm out. And I don't think the girls upstairs have much longer than that. Then work fast. And be careful. If Whitmore suspects you're gathering evidence, he'll make you disappear. Chen's voice was grim. We've been trying to build a case against him for months. But everyone who agrees to talk ends up recanting or disappearing. We need someone on the inside who's willing to see this through. I'm willing. Good. Watch your back, Ms. Mitchell. Men like Whitmore don't fight fair. The call ended. Sarah stared at her phone, processing what she'd just done. She'd allied herself with a senator's office. She'd committed to being a witness. There was no going back now. She just hoped Emma would understand, if things went wrong. If Sarah didn't make it out. For 3 days, Sarah played the perfect servant. She knelt at the door each morning without hesitation. She completed every degrading task Whitmore assigned her. She kept her eyes down and her mouth shut. And all the while, she watched. She learned the guards' patrol patterns. Discovered which security cameras had blind spots. Figured out that Whitmore left the estate every Wednesday afternoon for a standing appointment at his country club. On the 4th day, she made her move. Wednesday afternoon, 2 o'clock. Whitmore's car pulled out of the driveway. Sarah waited 15 minutes to be sure, then slipped away from her assigned work area. She'd told Maria she needed to use the bathroom. That gave her maybe 10 minutes before anyone noticed her absence. She took the servants' stairs to the 3rd floor. The hallway was quiet. Most of the doors were closed, presumably empty. But she'd been watching through the office security monitors during her brief time there, and she'd memorized which rooms showed activity. The 3rd door on the left. Always locked. Always occupied. Sarah knelt by the lock, pulled out the hairpin she'd modified into a makeshift pick, and went to work. It was a skill she'd learned in the army, though she'd never expected to use it like this. The lock clicked open. She slipped inside and closed the door behind her. The room was nicer than she'd expected. A 4-poster bed, expensive furniture, an ensuite bathroom. But the windows were barred from the outside, and there was a camera in the corner, its red light blinking steadily. On the bed sat a girl who couldn't have been more than 17. She had dark circles under her eyes and bruises on her arms. When she saw Sarah, she scrambled backward, fear flashing across her face. "It's okay," Sarah said softly, keeping her hands visible. "I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to help." "Who are you?" The girl's voice was hoarse, like she'd been crying. "My name is Sarah. I work here." "What's your name?" "Lily." "Lily, I need you to tell me the truth. Are you here by choice?" Lily's laugh was bitter. "Choice? Right." She gestured around the room. "Does this look like a choice to you? How long have you been here?" 3 months. Maybe 4. I lose track." Lily hugged her knees to her chest. "He found me at a bus station in Richmond. I'd run away from my foster home. Had nowhere to go, no money. He seemed nice at first. Said he could give me a job, a place to stay. Said I'd make good money if I was willing to be flexible." Sarah felt sick. "What does that mean? Flexible?" "It means I have to entertain his guests. Rich men who pay a lot of money to have a young girl who can't say no, who can't run away, who can't tell anyone what they do to her." "Have you tried to escape?" "Once. Made it as far as the front gate before the guards caught me." Lily pulled up her sleeve, showing Sarah a scar that looked like a burn. "Mr. Whitmore said it was a lesson. That the next time I tried to run, it would be worse. And then he showed me pictures of other girls who tried to escape. What happened to them?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I don't want to end up like them." Sarah pulled out her phone. "I need to take your picture, Lily. And I need you to tell me everything you remember. Names, dates, faces. Can you do that?" "Why?" "No one cares. The police don't care. The last girl who tried to report it, she disappeared a week later. I care. And I'm not going to let what happened to you keep happening." Sarah moved closer, her voice intense. "But I need your help. I need evidence. Real evidence that can't be ignored or buried. Will you help me?" Lily stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, she nodded. For the next 7 minutes, Lily talked. She gave Sarah names, dates, descriptions. She showed her the drawer where Whitmore kept written records, a sick kind of ledger documenting transactions and preferences. Sarah photographed everything, her hands shaking with rage. There are more, Lily said. Other girls in other rooms. Some of them have been here longer than me. Some of them have just arrived. How many? 5, I think. Maybe 6. Sarah checked her watch. She'd been gone 9 minutes. I have to go. But I promise you, Lily, I'm going to get you out of here. All of you. When? Soon. I need to get this evidence to the right people first. Can you hold on a little longer? Lily's eyes filled with tears. Do I have a choice? Sarah took her hand. Yes. You do. You can choose to survive. You can choose to be strong. And when this is over, you can choose what happens next. Not Whitmore. Not anyone else. You. I want to believe you. Then believe me. Sarah slipped out of the room, relocking the door behind her. She made it back to the bathroom just as Maria came looking for her. Where have you been? Sick, Sarah said, which wasn't entirely a lie. Her stomach was churning with what she'd learned. Something I ate, maybe. Maria studied her face. You're pale. Maybe you should rest. I'm fine. I have work to finish. She spent the rest of the day in a haze, going through the motions while her mind raced. She had evidence now. Real evidence. Testimonial and documentary. Enough to start an investigation, at least. But getting it out of the house was the problem. Whitmore's security was thorough. He checked bags. Monitored phones. Controlled everything that came in or out of the estate. She needed a plan. That night, Sarah lay in bed, waiting for the house to sleep. Grace was snoring softly. In the distance, she could hear the guards making their rounds. At 2 in the morning, she made her move. She'd learned that Whitmore stored his personal files in a safe in his bedroom. She'd seen it briefly during a cleaning assignment, hidden behind a painting. And she'd watched him open it once through the reflection in a mirror, memorizing the combination. Getting into his bedroom would be the hard part. Sarah crept through the dark mansion, avoiding the security cameras she'd mapped out. The master bedroom was on the second floor, at the end of the east wing. She could see light under the door. Whitmore was still awake. She waited in the shadows, patient. At 2:30, the light went out. She gave him another 30 minutes to fall asleep, then carefully tested the doorknob. Unlocked. Of course it was. Whitmore felt safe in his own house. That was about to change. The bedroom was enormous. A king-size bed dominated the center, with Whitmore's form barely visible under the covers. Sarah moved like a ghost, avoiding the creaky floorboards, keeping to the carpet. The painting was on the far wall. She lifted it carefully, revealing the safe underneath. 641928. The safe clicked open. Inside were stacks of cash, jewelry, and several folders. Sarah pulled out her phone and started photographing. Financial records showing payments to local officials. Contracts with shell companies. And most damning, a ledger that listed girls by name, age, and acquisition cost. She was so focused on the documents that she didn't hear the movement behind her until it was too late. I wondered if you'd try this, Whitmore said. Sarah spun around. He was standing by the bed, a gun in his hand, pointed directly at her. Put the phone down, he said calmly. And step away from the safe. Sarah's mind raced through options. She was unarmed. He had a gun. She was too far away to disarm him before he could shoot. And even if she could take him down, the gunshot would bring the guards running. She put the phone down. You really are persistent, Whitmore said. I have to admire that, even if it's incredibly foolish. Did you really think you could just rob me and walk out of here? I'm not robbing you. I'm collecting evidence of your crimes. My crimes. He laughed. Such harsh language. I prefer to think of it as a business. Supply and demand. I supply certain services to certain clients. They pay me well. Everyone benefits. Except the girls you're trafficking. Those girls. Whitmore's expression hardened. Those girls would be on the streets anyway. Selling themselves for $20 to whoever stopped by. I give them clean rooms, regular meals, medical care when needed. I'm practically a saint. You're a monster. I'm a businessman. And you, Miss Mitchell, are a dead woman. He raised the gun slightly. I'm going to shoot you. Then I'm going to call the sheriff and report that I caught you trying to rob me. That you attacked me and I defended myself. He'll believe me, of course. Everyone always believes me. Sarah's hand inched toward her pocket, where she'd hidden the modified hairpin. Not much of a weapon, but it was better than nothing. Your daughter will never know what really happened, Whitmore continued. She'll think her mother died a criminal. Trying to steal from a respected citizen. Such a tragedy. Emma will know the truth, Sarah said. Because this isn't over. Even if you kill me, the evidence is already out there. Whitmore's eyes narrowed. What evidence? Did you really think I'd come here tonight without a backup plan? Everything I've found, everything Lily told me, it's already been sent to Senator Morrison's office. They're building a case right now. Probably getting warrants as we speak. It was a bluff. She hadn't sent anything yet. Hadn't had time. But Whitmore didn't know that. You're lying. Am I? Check your office. Check your computer logs. You'll see I accessed the files 3 days ago. You'll see I sent encrypted emails. Sarah kept her voice steady, confident. You can kill me, but it won't stop what's coming. The FBI will be here by morning. Your powerful friends won't be able to protect you from federal charges. Whitmore's hand wavered. Just slightly. But enough. Sarah moved. She grabbed the phone and threw it at his face. He flinched, the gun going off, the bullet slamming into the wall behind where she'd been standing. She closed the distance between them, using techniques she'd learned in hand-to-hand combat training. Strike to the wrist. The gun clattered to the floor. Knee to the stomach. He doubled over, gasping. Elbow to the back of the neck. He went down. Sarah grabbed the gun and backed away, keeping it trained on him. Her hands were shaking, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Don't move, she said. Whitmore looked up at her, blood trickling from his nose where the phone had hit him. But instead of fear, she saw calculation in his eyes. Guards, he shouted. Intruder. Shoot to kill. Sarah heard pounding footsteps. Multiple sets. Coming fast. She had maybe 30 seconds before they arrived. She grabbed her phone and the folders from the safe and ran. Sarah burst out of Whitmore's bedroom and sprinted down the hallway. Behind her, she could hear Whitmore screaming orders, guards shouting, chaos erupting through the mansion. She had one advantage, she knew the layout better than they expected. While they assumed she'd head for the front door or windows, she made for the servants' passages, the hidden corridors that staff used to move through the house without disturbing the wealthy residents. She ducked into a narrow passage behind a bookshelf just as 2 guards rounded the corner. They ran past her hiding spot, shouting into radios. Sarah caught her breath and assessed her situation. She had the gun, the phone with photos, and the physical folders from the safe. But she was trapped inside an estate with armed guards, security cameras everywhere, and locked gates. She needed help. She pulled out her phone and dialed David Chen's number. Chen. It's Sarah Mitchell. I'm in trouble. Whitmore knows I have evidence. He's trying to kill me. Where are you? Still inside the estate. He's locked it down. Guards everywhere. Jesus. Okay, stay hidden. I'm calling the FBI field office in Richmond right now. They'll send agents immediately. How long? 30 minutes. Maybe 40. Can you hold out that long? Sarah looked down the dark corridor. Somewhere in the mansion, Lily and the other girls were locked in their rooms, probably terrified by the commotion. I don't have a choice. But Chen, there are victims here. 6 girls, all being trafficked. They're on the 3rd floor. The FBI needs to know. I'll tell them. Just stay alive. The call ended. 40 minutes. Sarah had to survive 40 minutes. She heard footsteps approaching. Multiple people, moving systematically, checking rooms. They were doing a floor-by-floor search. Sarah moved deeper into the servants' passages. These corridors connected different parts of the house, allowing staff to move around unseen. She'd explored them during her first week, noting every turn, every door, every exit. There was a service entrance on the east side of the mansion, used for deliveries. If she could reach it, she might be able to slip out before they locked down every exit. She navigated through the maze of narrow corridors, using the dim emergency lighting to guide her. Behind her, she could hear the search getting closer. Whitmore's voice echoed through the walls, ordering the guards to check everywhere, to leave no stone unturned. Sarah reached the service entrance. Locked. Of course it was locked. She tried the hairpin technique again, but this lock was more sophisticated. She'd need more time than she had. There. A guard spotted her through a window. East corridor. Sarah ran. She burst through a door into the kitchen, surprising 2 staff members who were being questioned by another guard. She didn't give him time to react. She swept his legs, grabbed a cast-iron pan from the stove, and hit him hard enough to stun him. Sorry, she muttered, then turned to the staff members. Get out. All of you. The FBI is coming. This whole place is going down. They stared at her in shock. Now. Sarah shouted. They ran. Sarah grabbed the guard's radio and smashed it, then continued through the kitchen to the loading bay. This door had a simpler lock. She shot it off, the gunfire deafening in the enclosed space. The door swung open. Fresh air hit her face. Freedom was just ahead. But she stopped. The girls. Lily and the others. She couldn't leave them. Sarah turned back into the mansion. She made it to the 3rd floor using a maintenance ladder and sheer determination. The hallway was chaos. Guards were everywhere, checking rooms, securing the area. But they were focused on finding her, not protecting their prisoners. Sarah moved fast. She picked the lock on Lily's door first. Sarah. Lily's eyes were wide with fear. What's happening? We're leaving. Come on. Sarah pulled her into the hallway. They moved to the next room. Another girl, younger, maybe 15. Then another. And another. 5 girls total. Some could barely walk, weak from malnutrition or drugs. Sarah supported them as best she could, moving them toward the servants' stairs. They almost made it. Stop right there, Whitmore said. He stood at the end of the hallway, a different gun in his hand. Behind him were 3 guards, all armed. It's over, Sarah. There's no escape. And now you've added kidnapping to your crimes. These girls aren't your property, Sarah said. She positioned herself in front of them, shielding them with her body. They're human beings. And I'm taking them out of here. You're delusional. Even if the FBI comes, even if they investigate, do you really think they'll find anything? I've been doing this for 15 years. I know how to clean up evidence. Those folders you stole. Meaningless without context. Those photos. Could be anything. And these girls? He gestured dismissively. They'll recant their stories. They always do. Because they know what happens if they don't. Not this time, Sarah said. This time, they have someone who won't abandon them. Someone who'll fight for them. Whitmore laughed. You. One woman against my entire organization. You're nothing. You're. The window at the end of the hallway exploded inward. Flashbangs detonated. Smoke filled the corridor. FBI. Nobody move. Agents in tactical gear swarmed through every entrance. Sarah dropped to the ground, pulling the girls down with her, protecting them from the chaos. When the smoke cleared, Whitmore and his guards were face down on the floor, hands cuffed behind their backs. An FBI agent helped Sarah to her feet. Sarah Mitchell. Yes. Special Agent Jennifer Torres. David Chin called us. Said you had evidence of human trafficking. Is this it? Sarah handed over the folders and her phone. That's just the start. Whitmore keeps detailed records. Everything you need is in his office safe and on his computer system. Torres looked at the 5 girls huddled together. And these are victims? Yes. They'll need medical attention. And protection. Whitmore threatened that anyone who talked would disappear. We'll take care of them, Torres said gently. She knelt down to the girl's level. You're safe now. I promise. No one's going to hurt you anymore. Lily looked at Sarah. Is it really over? It's really over, Sarah said. The sun was rising as Sarah finally left the Whitmore estate. The mansion was crawling with FBI agents, forensic teams, and victim advocates. More agents were fanning out across Jefferson County, arresting the officials who'd enabled Whitmore's operation. Sheriff Davis was already in custody, along with the district attorney and 2 county judges. The house of cards was collapsing. Maria found Sarah as she was giving her statement to Agent Torres. You did it, Maria said quietly. You actually did it. We did it, Sarah corrected. All of us who survived this place. I should have helped you. Should have been braver. You were brave. You survived 4 years of this. You kept your children safe. That took courage. Sarah put a hand on Maria's shoulder. And now it's over. For all of us. A car pulled up. David Chin got out, looking exhausted but triumphant. Ms. Mitchell. Hell of a night. Thank you for making those calls. For getting the FBI here in time. Thank you for being willing to risk everything. Chin handed her an envelope. Senator Morrison wanted me to give you this personally. It's a letter of commendation. She's also arranged for your daughter to be transferred to Johns Hopkins for treatment. Full scholarship. The best care available. Sarah's legs went weak. She had to sit down. What? Your daughter deserves a chance. And you deserve not to have to choose between justice and saving her life. Chin smiled. The senator was very clear. Heroes shouldn't have to sacrifice everything. Sarah opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was the letter, along with a check. $50,000. That's from a victim's compensation fund, Chin explained. For what you endured working here. And there'll be more, once Whitmore's assets are seized and liquidated. Sarah couldn't speak. She just stared at the check, thinking about Emma, about the treatment, about the future they might actually have now. 3 months later, Sarah stood in a federal courtroom. Richard Whitmore sat at the defense table, his expensive suit unable to hide how much he'd diminished. His powerful friends had abandoned him the moment the indictments came down. His lawyers were fighting a losing battle. The prosecution had everything. Financial records. Victim testimony. Security footage. The case was airtight. Sarah took the witness stand. Ms. Mitchell, the prosecutor said. Can you tell the court what you observed during your time at the Whitmore estate? Sarah spoke clearly, calmly, recounting everything. The degrading rituals. The locked rooms. The girls who'd been trafficked and abused. The corruption that had enabled it all. Whitmore stared at her with pure hatred. But he was powerless now. Just a pathetic man who'd built an empire on suffering and watched it crumble. "Thank you, Ms. Mitchell," the prosecutor said. "No further questions." The defense attorney stood. "Ms. Mitchell, isn't it true that you entered Mr. Whitmore's employment under false pretenses? That you planned from the beginning to steal from him?" "I entered his employment to earn money for my daughter's medical care," Sarah said. "I discovered the truth about his operation during my work there. And I chose to do something about it." "You chose to violate his privacy, to steal his property." "I chose to save 6 girls from slavery and abuse," Sarah interrupted. "I'd make the same choice again." The courtroom erupted in applause. The judge banged her gavel for order, but Sarah saw the hint of a smile on her face. The verdict came down 2 weeks later. Guilty on all counts. Human trafficking. Racketeering. Corruption. Sexual assault. The list went on. Richard Whitmore was sentenced to 45 years in federal prison. He'd die behind bars. His co-conspirators faced similar sentences. The sheriff, the DA, the judges who'd looked the other way. All of them went down. Sarah watched from the gallery as Whitmore was led away in chains. He looked old suddenly, defeated. All his power, all his wealth, all his connections, they meant nothing now. Justice had been served. Emma's treatment was going well. The experimental therapy at Johns Hopkins was working. Her latest scans showed the leukemia in retreat. The doctors were cautiously optimistic. Sarah sat by her hospital bed, holding her daughter's small hand. "Mom," Emma said sleepily. "Did you really fight bad guys?" "I did something like that, yeah." "Were you scared?" "Terrified. Every single day." "But you did it anyway." "I did it anyway. Because some things are worth being scared for." Sarah kissed her daughter's forehead. "You're worth being scared for." Emma smiled and drifted back to sleep. Sarah pulled out her phone and looked at a text from Agent Torres. The 6 girls they'd rescued were all in safe houses now, getting therapy, rebuilding their lives. Lily had enrolled in community college. She wanted to be a social worker, to help other victims. "They're going to make it," Torres had written. "Because of you." Sarah looked at her sleeping daughter, thought about Lily and the others starting over, and felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. She'd knelt at that door every morning for a week, degraded and controlled, forced to play a role that made her sick. But she'd done it with purpose. She'd endured it to save lives, to gather evidence, to bring down a monster. And she'd succeeded. Sarah Mitchell had survived war, loss, and desperation. She'd faced a powerful enemy on his own territory and won. Not because she was stronger or smarter or braver than anyone else. But because she'd refused to give up. Because she'd remembered who she was, even when someone tried to make her forget. Because she'd chosen to stand up, even when kneeling was easier. That's what heroes do. They kneel when they have to. But they always stand back up. And they never, ever stop fighting.